12 o'clock right now, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lucia Jennings. I'm the President and CEO of the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce of the Southeast. I'm delighted that you could join us today for this webinar entitled Immigration Through Investments. Before we move into the introductions and discussions, there were a few points that I want to bring it up. I know that Bruno has already advised everyone that you are being recorded. This is an event that is also being broadcasted via LinkedIn and YouTube. So the link has been shared with everyone. So just make sure that you share with your friends and associates. We also will be taking questions throughout the webinar, either on the topic that we're discussing or something of interest to you that we should be addressing during the program. So let's move on. We have a great program for you today. It is hosted by the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce with the partnership with Drummond Advisors and Invest America. I hope that most of you have heard about BACC, this independent nonprofit membership organization that was founded in 1996. It has as its mission to provide a unique two-way gateway to our members to foster and strengthen new commercial and personal relationships in Brazil and in Southeast USA. We work around three pillars. One is information, where we provide business with target programs to identify and obtain the right opportunities. Just like the event that we are hosting today, it's something that we bring to our members. The second pillar is the connections. For the many years that we have been in the region, we have been able to connect our members to potential partners of every size and every industry. We value our connections with local, state, and federal governments, and also with businesses in general. Our third pillar is resource. BACC is able to provide reliable, hands-on assistance in developing, establishing, and improving our members' business. Our members are our referrals and subject matter experts for doing business in the US and in Brazil. We exist to serve our members to grow their business and to reach a determined goal. I hope that I was able to convey to you why you should join BACC and become a member of our organization. More information about how to contact us, you're going to find on the last slide that we're going to be presenting at the end of this program. Now, the topic of our discussion today is on immigration through investments. This is a topic of great interest from foreigners looking for a pathway to residence in the USA. For this discussion, we have invited a great team to guide you on this journey from the best advice on the options to invest in the US to the legal and tax implications. Our panelists are Jean King, Mike Zenek, and Mila Deolano from Invest America. From Drummond Advisors, we have Pedro Drummond, Bruno Dumont, and Fabiana Guerra. I would like to start this event by asking one of the board of directors of BACC Southeast, Mr. Jean King, to give us a brief introduction of himself and of his company. Jean.
Thank you, Lucia. I hope everyone on the panel can hear me okay with the head nod. Yay, yes. Okay, it's working. Good. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This is an exciting moment, especially for all of you that are interested in understanding immigration through investment. I am Senior Managing Director of Sequence Holdings. Sequence Holdings is a holding company for a US-based FINRA broker-dealer Sequence Specialist, a immigration consulting firm, Invest America, and as well a commercial real estate firm, Sequence Real Estate. So we help guide and direct foreign investors on a pathway into the United States, utilizing Securities and Exchange Commission processes and making sure we protect investors. Thank you, Lucia.
Well, thank you, Jane, and welcome. Mike, could you take a few minutes to introduce yourself and Invest America?
Yes, thank you, Lucia. Appreciate that introduction. My name is Mike Zenick. I'm the president and CEO of Invest America, founder of Invest America. Founded Invest America in 2012 and have been working in this immigration space since then. I'm also the managing principal of Sequence Financial Specialists, which is the broker dealer. We work hand in hand to work on EB5, E2, EB1C transactions on behalf of investors and have a variety of options available for people in each of those categories. And as Gene said, focused on doing everything in a securities compliant manner with lots of due diligence and making sure that things are structured properly for investors. And very excited to be here today with you, Lucia, and the BACC, and with Drummond Advisors.
Thank you, Mike. Also from Invest America, Mila, could you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Mila Deolano. I am Brazilian, but I live in Atlanta, Georgia for almost 15 years. I have been working with Invest America since last year as the Global Development Coordinator. I am part of the support team and towards helping Invest America reach their goals and helping all the foreign investors to come to the United States. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mila. Now let's hear from the group of Drummond Advisors. Pedro, would you kindly introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Lucia. Thank you very much for hosting us. Hi, everyone. Let me speak a little bit about the firm, and then Bruno and Fabiana will also introduce themselves. Drummond Advisors is a consulting firm dedicated to assist cross-border individuals and transactions between mainly Brazil and the US, but we also serve other nationalities. We have three main line of businesses: accounting, where Bruno is a leader; tax, Bruno also lead that section; and legal, I'm the leader of the legal side of the group. I'm a dual licensed attorney in Brazil and the US. And within that scope, we represent several applicants on investment-based visas. I have Fabiana Guerra here. She's the project manager on this side as well. She will share her experience with us. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and we'll share our experience on the visa side, while Bruno will be focused on the tax aspects of those transactions. Thank you, Lucia.
Thank you, Pedro. It's a great pleasure working with you. We have been partners for many years, so I appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. Bruno, I want to hear from you. Tell us your role at Drummond Advisors.
Let me take from the mute. Sorry about that. Hi, Lucia. Thank you very much, BACC, Invest America, for hosting us. It's a pleasure to be here with you during this Tuesday lunch webinar. And for the ones that are in the East Coast, for the ones in Brazil, it's already good afternoon of you. For the ones in Europe, a good evening, correct? We have some European friends. That's probably almost early evening. And for the ones that are now West Coast, good morning. So we're right in the middle of everything. But basically, as Pedro mentioned, I was the founder of Drummond. We just turned 10 years old a week ago. So we grew to over 2,800 plus active clients. So we help these business owners, enterprise, and individuals do cross-border transaction. And that's basically what we do on a daily basis. And the most important thing, it help us client and the marketplace do knowledgeable transactions where they know what they're doing, how they're doing through webinars, content, posts, helping people. It's what we do. We basically we're in the service industry, and that's what drives us to wake up in the morning and helping people that are going from one country to another country and try to do business and go through this exercise on a daily basis. Okay. Thank you very much for having us. See you.
Thank you, Bruno. Fabiana, give me a little bit of your background and your role in the Drummond Advisors.
Hi, hello everyone. It's nice to be with you today. Thank you, Lucia, for having us today. I'm Brazilian and I'm a licensed attorney and accountant in Brazil. I'm currently part of Drummond Visa team. As Pedro mentioned, I'm the project manager and I'm also an associate. I specialize in investors visa. Before Drummond Advisors, I was senior tax manager in large multinational companies such as PricewaterhouseCoopers, Procter & Gamble, Lufthansa Airlines, and Coca-Cola Group. It's a pleasure to have here today.
Glad to know you. We are friends from Coca-Cola. Thanks, everyone. I was right when I said that I invited the most competent group of professionals to talk about immigration and business opportunities today. My first question is to Mike. Mike, I would like to start my question with Invest America's mission statement. Invest America exists to guide, protect, and support families as they immigrate to a better life in the United States. Could you describe a little more how Invest America helped the foreign investors to accomplish their immigration goals and the differentials in your firm that prioritize the investors' interests?
Sure, Lucia. Appreciate that question. And really, it's the whole reason why Invest America was created. We got into EB5. I got into EB5 opportunistically in 2010 with somebody looking for a broker dealer to help organize all the chaos that was in the EB5 industry at the time. It was going through rapid growth, and they were looking for somebody to kind of rein everything together, help people do things in a securities compliant manner, protect the investors, and help put out good projects. So what we focus on is extensive due diligence. Goes from the owners of the project, the developers of the project, the owner of the regional center, all the key people involved doing background checks. We also analyze the financial statements. We do lots and lots of due diligence analysis to make sure that the structure of the transaction itself, and the people involved are definitely focused on what they're supposed to be focused on, and that's making sure that the investor is protected. We focus on projects where EB5 is a small portion of the capital stack, and that way it helps with, number one, making sure that there's other capital in the project that are at risk, and also makes the exit strategy for the investors later on more reasonable and more likely. We also look for developers that are taking risk ahead and above the EB5 investors. So they're putting a lot of skin in the game. We require developers to put in at least 15 to 20% or more of the equity themselves. We're looking for sophisticated other capital that's in there, like senior lenders, and also looking for transactions where the investor, there's lots of investor protections along the way. Our whole team is comprised of CPAs, other analysts, people from the investment banking world versus the immigration world, and that helps us to be able to evaluate projects that will protect investors, protect their capital, maximize the opportunity for them to get their green card if it's an EB5, or their E2 visa if it's an E2, or EB1C for green card as well, and also making sure that they're maximizing the opportunity for getting their money back, which is ultimately, getting the green card, getting their visa, and getting their money back are the three key components of any transaction that we represent in the immigration space.
Very good. Pedro, we heard Mike talk about the opportunities with the EB5 visa. And just in November of last year, the US Department of Homeland Security made several changes to the EB5 program. Can you tell us about the process for obtaining an EB-5 visa and some of the changes that were made to the program? Also, if you could address if families, family members are eligible for permanent visas also in this process?
Sure, Lucy. Let me take the easiest question there about family members. Yes, all family members will be considered dependents on the EB-5. And by all family members, I mean spouse or husband, wife or husband, and children minor than 21 years old, okay? Speaking about the changes, we need first to understand there are two separate amounts for EB-5s, okay? A smaller amount and a higher amount depending on the location of the investment. If the location is where we call the target employment area, TEA, there is an amount set for $900,000. What happened last year was an increase from 500 to 900. So before November 2019, a TEA investment for EB-5 would need to have just 500K. Now that amount increased to $900,000. On a non-TEA location, that amount increased from 1 million to $1.8 million. Okay, that was the main change. Speaking about the process to obtain the green card, first of all, you need to identify the investment that you're gonna make. So Invest America will advise on this, and this is key, okay? Making the wrong investment will hurt you on the immigration side. After the investment is made, then we petition for the green card, and then it will take a little while, between 18 to 24 months, that fluctuates for the first approval, and then we apply for the adjustment of status or consular process. So EB-5, it's a three-step process, beginning with the investment in the first application to USCIS. Another important topic that has been changing lately during 2020, President Trump has published several what we call presidential proclamation, and which has affected several green cards and visa applications. I'll ask Fabiana to talk about the presidential proclamation in terms of EB-5. Fabiana is checking this almost on a daily basis, right, Fabiana? Things are updating on immigration on a daily basis. EB-5 has not been affected, correct?
Yes, you're right. EB-5 is a category not affected at all by the presidential proclamation, and is still ready to go.
That's very important. Several other visas have been impacted. As we speak, some visas have been suspended in terms of entry, and EB-5 has not been. So this is a major advantage on the program.
Very good. So Mike, speaking of investments, what are the services Invest America provides with the EB-5 program, and how many projects have you represented in the past, and how is your approach in order to represent these projects with having the investors' interests as your main priority?
Sure, thank you, Lucia. So our main services that we provide are, we represent regional centers and developers with projects that qualify for the EB-5 program. We, again, as I mentioned before, go through all the due diligence, making sure all the documents and everything are in compliance with US securities laws. And then we take that project, that offering, and we promote that through our various networks throughout the world, whether that's immigration attorneys here in the US, whether it's other professional service firms around the world, agents in different countries. We've established a really nice network into Brazil in particular, and other South American countries, as well as India and some other countries. And we utilize, again, doing it in a securities compliant manner, making sure that the investors get all the proper information, making sure that they understand the risks, which is important. A lot of projects sort of, they tout the benefits, but don't really talk about the risks very much. We want to make sure that the investors are aware of the risks involved, of an investment like this, because it is 100% at risk. When you put your money in as an investor, you could lose every penny of it. And that's a requirement of the program. So we want to make sure that people understand that. We also represent the investors when they come in. So say somebody comes in, we help them through the entire process along with their immigration attorney. Some investors need more help than others. We help facilitate their due diligence process and their examination, whether we need to do site visits, which unfortunately are probably not in the cards right now with the current situation, or do calls with the developer, calls with the regional center. We make sure that they're very, very comfortable that we've given them all the information that they need. The unique thing about us is once they invest as a broker dealer, and because they invested in an offering that we represent as a registered broker dealer, they actually become our clients for the life of the investment, meaning that we're there and we're required to protect their best interests from the point they invest until the moment that they get their money back or the transaction is completed, many years down the line. So we're there for them if they have any questions, if they're having problems with the project of any kind, if the developer's not giving them updates, the regional center's not giving them updates, we're there. We're actually required by law to represent them as our client. So that's kind of, again, the unique features and some of the things that we do as Invest America. As far as the number of projects since 2010, when I first got into it, and then as Invest America since 2012, we've represented almost 30 projects in the EB5 space. And we have a track record of 100% of our investors have gotten their I-526s approved. There are still some in the queue right now from last year, but 100% of all the ones that have been evaluated have been approved, no denials. And then on the second part of that, which is removal of conditions and final green card, we're probably at about, right now, I'd say, 2/3 of them have not been, they've not gotten to that point of the process yet, but the third that have, or third to one half that have all been approved. So we have 100% approval rate in all the investors that we represented for all the projects that we've represented.
Well,
Hi, Lucia, may I pause there just to add one important topic about EB5?
Mm-hmm.
When compared to other visas, EB5 has a very, very, very high approval rate. We have seen the immigration pushing all the other visas to the corner, and we have seen them being rejected with kind of completely awkward decisions. This has not affected the EB5. We continue here at Drummond, we continue to have 100% approval as well. So that's important message to people out there. EB5s continue to be very well seen by immigration, and the approval rate of petitions overall is still very, very high throughout the industry. And having a good team that has a very important and solid track record is important to secure that approval. It's a huge advantage on EB5s, the approval rating.
Thank you, Pedro. That's great. It's great to know. And as everyone in the webinar is saying, a very qualified group of people here, not only in the investor side of it, but also on supporting with the legal aspects and the tax implications. Before I continue to the more of the legal implications and even addressing the tax, let me just ask Jean one last question here. Are you currently representing any EB5 projects? Could you share with us about your current projects and the future ones coming up on your portfolio? Jean, you are mute.
It helps to unmute. Thank you. Absolutely, and I'll answer the question now. That's great. We, as a FINRA broker dealer, we like to have a portfolio of products at the market. We are not a regional center where we're just selling our one project. Right now, last year, we finished 2 projects. We have an ongoing project moving forward, which is a casino resort. And hopefully by the end of August, September, we'll literally have 5 portfolio projects consisting of casino resort, multi-family organization operation, oil storage business, a office retail multi-family business, as well as a hotel hospitality transaction. So we do, as Mike said earlier, a tremendous amount of due diligence to make sure when we bring a project to market, we're doing everything we can to protect the investor through the transactional process. And also, as Mike said, because the investor is our client for the entire duration of the project. So that kind of rounds out what we're doing now in the transactional process, Lucia.
And that gives an example of a place in the area of business for a $900,000 investment. That was one of the questions from the audience.
Every one of these transactions is in a TEA area. So as Pedro was talking about, you would not have to worry about the accelerated costs. This would be a $900,000 investment in the TEA area, target employment area.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And to see if I may, so, and just to embellish on that and also answer the second half of that question that we have on the floor right now, the areas that were represented in each of the projects that Gene mentioned, obviously the casino resort is in Las Vegas, and is almost complete. Should be the facility will be opening at the end of October, and then there's the multifamily project in Seattle. The oil storage facility is in Texas. The mixed use multifamily office retail business is in New York. The hotel is in Nashville. So wanted to just give you an idea of, in addition to a variety of industries, we're also represent projects in a variety of geographies around the United States.
Okay, let me shift a little bit and go back to the issues with legal implications. We can't do anything without lawyers anyway. So Fabiana, I'm going to invite you to explain to us the top issues the applicants need to know when they submit to the EB-5 process. Are there few issues that get closer scrutiny to receive approval, and how does working with a business consulting company like Invest America help the process in your point of view?
That's a good question, Lucia. In my point of view, the top issues are: first, know how to prove that your source of funds is lawful and how to properly track and invest those funds. Second, invest in a project with positive tracking records to avoid losing time, losing money, and end up without the green card. Of course, a solid business consulting company as Invest America can surely help you choosing a good project with positive tracking records and avoid any problem with your green card process.
Thank you.
Lucia, if I may, when we talk about EB-5s, we're mainly talking about source of funds, but not only source. Fabiana mentioned something very important for applicants to keep in mind. You need to prove source and tracing, meaning your source of funds must be legitimate, and you need to prove everything you have done with that money until you invest. So when you're considering, always look for the most straightforward tracing on the application. I always use the same example. Let's suppose you inherited some money 20 years ago. That's a source, but probably you have shifted that money around, so your tracing is very long. And let's say you sold your business a month ago. It's also a source. Use the sale of the business because that source is very close, so your tracing will be easy. So source and tracing, keep those two concepts in mind when you're dealing and when you're applying, okay?
Very good. So let me bring Bruno to tell us something about the tax implications. Bruno, what are the top 5 implications a foreign citizen needs to take into consideration when they are applying for their EB-5?
So Thank you, Lucia, for that question. It's very important. When you do a transaction or you immigrate from one country to another country, you need to take in consideration many aspects. The first aspect that it's very important is you go from a local taxpayer to a global taxpayer. So you're moving from, let's say you're moving from Europe or from Brazil or from another location to US. That movement change your tax residency, and that tax residency that you become a US taxpayer makes you a global taxpayer, which in that case, you need to take in consideration global income into your US income. So you're gonna have, from that moment on, you're gonna have income that is generated in US plus the income that is generated in overseas, where you came from, okay? So that's one thing. The second thing is the compliance. How you do business in US, you need to comply with the laws in US in terms of the assets and the income that you have abroad. That also takes a lot of time, and make sure that you understand that. So if you own a real property, or when I say real property, it's like a real estate overseas, or you have investment in a fund, or you have a operating business, you need to understand each one of them, how they impact on your compliance. Third, it's very important to understand that when you come to the US, you come with a basis, okay? That base can be a new base or an old base from your assets, okay? So you need to plan ahead to understand what type of bases that you're gonna bring to US. That's very important. And that base will impact your future capital gains, okay? The fourth point is state tax. When you become US citizen, US taxpayer, and then eventually US citizen, you need to take in consideration state tax, because now your global wealth will be taxed on the state level, state, federal, and in some states that you're eventually going to be leaving, also on a state level, okay? So state tax on a state and federal level. And fourth, but not least yet, we need to take in consideration the aspects of how to do business in US. You need to understand that in US, you have some case you have double taxations. Some case you have only one taxations. You have different tax brackets. From corporations, you might pay up to 21% in state tax. On individual level, you might pay a higher tax bracket, and they're progressive for individuals. For corporation, it's fixed. So in all these matters, you need to take in consideration those aspects to make sure that you don't get trapped into a new life, but with a big bill. And we have a great discussion yesterday among ourselves, and Jean mentioned, correct, Jean, how many times you have seen this come out on your practice. Individuals really think about it, the investment and the green card, but sometimes they left aside the tax aspects, which is, it's very burnt if you don't take a very good look at it. Mostly of the foreigners comes to US, they have that perception that the US is very costly in terms of tax. That's not the case. That's also a misunderstanding by mostly of the foreigners, which you need to understand. You need to plan ahead to absorb the credits that you pay overseas into your US global income tax. And I would love to hear again, Jean, your feedbacks on that and your exposure, throughout these years with your clients.
Yeah, I would say Mike Zenik has probably had more exposure to the actual tax ramifications than I have. I just know of the horror stories that people did not think, they bought, but did not think about what they were doing and what the ramifications were going to be. And everything you just said, Bruno, it's a planned event. This entire EB5, EB1C, everything should be thoroughly planned out with professionals to make sure you protect yourself, the investor, they protect themselves the best they possibly can, so that when they get to the United States, it's a pleasure. They're excited, and you don't find hidden issues that upset the cart of the whole thing. So you have hit on 5 spectacular issues that each investor really needs to consider when moving in this direction towards an EB1 or an EB5.
Gene, that's why we always advise clients to do a pre-immigration tax planning. That's called pre-immigration tax planning,
Absolutely.
because it needs to plan ahead before you become a tax resident, a U.S. tax resident.
And unfortunately, and I'll let Mike speak to it if he wants to make a comment, but in my tenure in this industry, it seems that most people are post-planning and wish to God they had been pre-planning, because the post-plan is not a plan. It's to get your checkbook out and start writing for taxes that you wished you had pre-planned. So Bruno, you're spot on exactly what you're talking about, Pedro.
It's also important, I want to address this. Since 2017, U.S. tax regime has reduced some of the effective tax rates. For individual was a slight change from 39 top to 37, but for corporation, we went from 35 average to 25. So in some cases, we are in a lower tax effective rate than overseas, mostly in countries in Europe and also in South America. And that's something that it's a good opportunity. We don't know for how long this is gonna last. And we need to understand that you need to take that advantage as soon as possible so you can make that movement. And when you do the movement, you remember from the days that you capture credits overseas and you cannot use it, you still have up to 10 years to use them. And all our clients, they move to US and eventually they will continue to do business overseas. In some cases, they even distributed their wealth in other countries, because of to reduce risk of asset, reduce risk of liquidity, government risks, and so forth. And all that credit that you generated in one specific country, you could use for an income in another country in the future, up to 10 years. That's a great opportunity for foreigners come in here prior and adjust themselves to a win situations, as Gene mentioned on his speech. I'm gonna turn back to Lucia, and I hope I can answer that question properly, Lucia. Thank you.
You did very well, Bruno. We're all concerned about paying the government more than we should. So I'm glad that we take into consideration that we need to hire a tax accountant to help us navigate through this very complex subject. So thank you so much. I understand that there are other types of visas for investors. So let's shift gears a little bit and ask Pedro about the EB1C and E2 visas from a legal standpoint. So Pedro, can you tell us more about the process for the EB1C and E2 visas and what investors should know about this process?
Sure, Lucy, great question. There are several differences between EB5, EB1C, and E2. First of all, we need to state very clear, there are all types of visas, US visas and green cards. You name it. You have R, M, F, EB2, EB3, whatever. Now, here we're talking about the most commonly used visas for investments, which are EB5, EB1C, and E2. There are several differences among of them. I will highlight the most important, okay? First of all, EB1C and EB5 will lead you to be a green card holder, meaning you are a permanent resident of the US. There are tax implications that, like Bruno said. An E2 will not lead you to be a green card holder. You will be a visa holder. Okay, there are some tax differences. There are some other differences in terms of where you're allowed to work, what you're allowed to do, and etc. That's the main difference. Okay, that's the first. Second, the E2 and EB1C are aimed to those who want to work in the company, in that company that you are either acquiring or opening. Okay, EB5, when you invest on a target employment area through a regional center, you don't need to work in that enterprise. That's a very important distinction. So if you're looking to a passive investment and not willing to work in that project that you're investing, EB5 is the one to choose. Okay, let's say, and by the way, important about the EB5, you don't need to live where the enterprise is. Okay, so if you choose to invest in Las Vegas in that project, you don't need to live in Las Vegas. You don't need to work for that project. You can live in New York, in Miami. On E2 and EB1C, you are either acquiring a company to which you will work, or you are setting up the business in case of E2, and you will need to work in that business. Okay. Another important distinction, EB1C and EB5 are available to any nationality. E2 has some limitations. The E2 is called a visa for a treaty investor. Why treaty investor? Because it's available to citizens of countries to which the US has a treaty with it. Very, very, very clear example. Brazil has no E2 treaty. So Brazilians will not have an E2 path. Well, but I know some Brazilians who have E2 visas. How come? Because they are dual citizens. Okay? We represent several Italians, Germans, Argentinians, which are also Brazilians. So if you do have if you're a dual citizen, you may apply for E2 if one of your nationality will allow. Okay. In terms of risks, you need to analyze the business that you are acquiring or the business that you are setting up in case of, let's say, an E2, a brand new company. And you also will need to analyze the risk of EB5 investment, doing a due diligence on the project, etc. Everything that Invest America can help, and Gene, Mike, and Mila explain. Those are some of the differences, okay, Lucia? There are plenty of others, especially on the process, okay? Which forms you apply, how long it takes. We could be here until the end of the day just talking about the differences. I just wanted to emphasize the most important ones.
Thank you so much, Pedro. There is a question from the audience, and it is, can I apply for the E2 visa investing in a company in which its core business is investing in multiple enterprises? For example, I will hold one company of investments that controls 2 or 3 other LLCs in areas of private school, real estate, and restaurant. I would like to do that to avoid being restricted to work in one type of business. Is that possible?
Yes, let me take that. So basically his question is, may I use a holding company as the applicant for the E2 visa, and I work for the holding company where I supervise several other operational companies. Yes, you can. You will need to prove to the immigration that you will be working here and serving these companies, meaning that holding company needs to be active. Okay, you need to work. That holding company cannot be a mere passive investment company. Okay, but if you are working on that company, supervising the others, and you are in active business, yes, you can apply.
Very good. Let's bring Mike back to talk about investments. So Mike, as an investor, if I'm looking to live and work in the United States using the E2 visa, and I'm interested in opening my own business or a franchise in the United States, how can Invest America guide me through the process? Mike, you are mute.
Mike,
Did we lose Mike?
let me see. Yes, we lost Mike.
Okay, well, and then let me go to Mila because I have a similar question, Mila, and then we come back to Mike and we address Invest America process of with the E2 visas. Mila, I understand that Invest America represents more than 120 different franchise opportunities around the US. Could you please give me some examples of what are the franchise choices an investor would have with Invest America? Would one be able to, I guess that Pedro has already touched base on the other issue about, do you have to live in the city where your business is? So if you just address the opportunities with the franchises that Invest America offers to investors.
I'll touch base a little bit what Invest America do overall in E2, but I'll leave that to Mike. But it's very important to know, as Pedro was saying, that you have to work. In E2, you can't just be a passive investment. You have to be part of that company. One of the parts that Invest America does is opening the new business. One of the parts that Invest America actually specializes with is franchises, okay? You can say it could be an easier way just because the company is already set. I already have a system working. I already have an operation team. Is much easier to do the due diligence, to have all the business plans set up. And with that said, we have in our portfolio over 120 franchises. It's really hard to say the ones that are right now and live, and it's going to be in 1 month because they're constantly moving. You know, the availability comes and goes by the time of acquiring business. So if at the time you come and says, I want to apply for an E2 visa and I want to go for a franchising, and the timeline of 3 months will give you a list, we'll make a screening of your abilities, of your background, what is your curriculums look like, what have you worked in the past, because what Invest America wants to do is to make sure that you will succeed. If for that to happen, you have to have experience in the franchise market that you are choosing to work with. It could be in the fitness area, like let's say everybody knows Orange Theory or Pure Bar, or like Club Pilates. We can do also in the beauty area of it. It can be a décollage, a hand and stone. We do sometimes also, that's very popular, especially in South America, are the sports franchises like martial arts, soccer schools, and also have the other services, especially in the pandemic today, that have been less affected. That's the maid services or the home repair services or the moving companies, that they kept like, how can you say, they're like essential business that they have to keep working. The restaurant business, we will have in the future a direct opportunity that we call the Flying Biscuits, that a very successful restaurant chain here in Atlanta, Georgia, that will is coming up soon. And those are a little of our examples. Is always moving, is always changing, but our commitment to our clients to help them find something that will suit them, their families better in the city they choose, the state they want to live, and we'll work with the client to find that franchise opportunity in the city they want to live, in the area they want to work with. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Mila, and also for taking over the question that I had asked Mike. Let me just ask Bruno about the tax or accounting implications for these types of visas. Bruno, you're mute.
Thank you. I'm on mute. I was already answering your question. Sorry about that, Lucia. Well, the EB-5, we need to understand some of the aspects of the visa. Correct? You become a U.S. taxpayer in 3 types of tests. One, when you're a citizen, U.S. citizen, U.S. citizen and green card holders, you become right away a U.S. tax person. Okay. When you have a green card and you obtain that green card through a visa outside of the U.S., you only become a U.S. taxpayer when you enter in U.S. with that green card. Okay. When you have a different type of visa, investor visa, that it's not a green card, for instance, E2, and you come to U.S., you have the 3rd type of test, which is the presence test. So you only become a U.S. taxpayer when you pass the 183 days, 184 days test, which is, we can have a full webinar explaining what does that test means. But it's very important for the other types of visas is none of them, it's simple cut. It's not like out of the shelf answer. So if you are EB-5 or if you're EB-2, EB-1, and you in US and you do the change of status, you could change your tax residency prior to you receive the green card. So you need to go through a consultation with your lawyer, immigration lawyer, and your CPA to make sure that you understand when your residency starts and when you actually leave your residency from the country that you come from. So very important. If you understand the steps, good. If you're overseas and you apply for one of these visas, EB-2, EB-3, or let's say EB-5, only when you acquire the green card and you enter in US again, you become a US taxpayer. Until then, you continue the foreign taxpayer. But if you are here in US for some studying or F1, J, H1B, L1, then you need to stop. We need to address these dates and make sure that to understand when you become a US taxpayer and when you are foreign taxpayer for that answer. Okay.
Thank you. Let's ask Jean, what is the Invest America's role in helping investors obtain the EB-1C green card? We're running out of time, so I wanted the answers to be a bit shorter so I can complete the webinar on time. So, Jean.
I'm not sure what's the best question out here, but that's a great one. When you think of what Bruno has talked about, the 5 things you have to think about with finance, and what Pedro has talked about when pulling all this together and understanding the process, literally understanding the difference in E2 is a visa. I've got to buy a company. EB-1C is green card. I got to buy a company. EB-5, I'm investing in a transaction. So Invest America, when it comes to an EB-1C, we work as an investment banking firm, which is what we are. We help you acquire the business. So as Mila talked about all the multiple franchises. You may want a pharmaceutical company that's in Detroit, and we go access and find it and buy it for you. Well, you buy it, we help you procure it. But we are the caveat to help you secure, go through the due diligence, go through the entire process, acquiring. We're there with you after the acquisition. So the EB1C is truly a acquisitional process, and that's why we are hired. Thank you, Lucia.
Thank you.
Lucia,
Yeah.
may I follow up on that answer from Jean and take some questions here that are all on the same line? Several people asking about minimum investment on E2 and EB1C. The questions vary, but they are similar in terms of, is there a minimum amount required for EB1C and E2? Short answer to that, no. There are no minimum requirements for E2 and EB1C, and there is a minimum requirement for EB5. However, and here's the longer answer.
That's the good.
That's a good part, right, Jean? Well, you need to think on how much you're going to invest, because that will tell a lot about the viability of your business. So although there is no minimum requirement, there are some advisable amount that you should invest to have a chance of approval. On E2, we usually advise to invest at least $150,000. On EB1C, it will depend on the size of your business. Like Jean said, if you're looking to acquire a pharmaceutical company, very likely that $150,000 will not do the job. You need some $1 million to acquire the company, perhaps. A smaller franchise, you will acquire for fewer dollars, let's say 300 or 150. So keep in mind that the amount you invest is relevant for the US, for the immigration in general, both USCIS and consulate, to judge how viable the business is and how serious you are about your US project.
Correct.
Thank you, Pedro. Well, Fabiana, do you have anything else to add as far as your top recommendations for foreign investors looking at either one of these EB5, EB1C, or E2 visas? And your question wrap up all the questions that I had. So please take the.
Okay, so our top 3 recommendations are: first, hire experienced service providers to guide you through the process. Not easy, it's a complex process. Second, choose carefully the investment. As we talk here, if EB5, choose a solid project with positive tracking records to invest. If EB1C or E2, make sure you have a good business to work with, because you will actually work in the business. And third, make sure you are well prepared for the process. You must understand the requirements and the impact of your visa before you start it. That's all.
Thank you so much. Well, I think we are running out of time, so I wanted to thank all of you for attending today's webinar. Our sincere thanks to our panelists for taking the time to talk with us about immigration through investments. Don't forget to like our pages on LinkedIn and share the video of this event with your friends and associates. And to wrap up everything, I'm going to ask Jean, would you be so kind to close the event for us with a few words to this great audience?
Wow, thank you. First of all, thank you, Drummond. Gosh, you guys did great job, guys being female and male. Thank you very much. Our team with Invest America. Wow, yeah, I mean, we all together really got a lot of information out, and I'm glad this is being taped, because it truly is one of the best webinars I've been a part of to really explain this process. And it could not have happened without the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce of Southeast. Lucia, you do a great job. You know, the whole process with the chamber is fostering and strengthening the new commercial and personal relationships in Brazil and the United States. It's why we joined. You get out of a chamber what you put into it. We're trying to give back. And you've done what you said you would do, which is give information and connect us with people and give us the resources to understand how to go into a foreign country. So all of you on this. Thank you very much for participating. If you're not a member of the chamber, I know Lucia would really appreciate you giving her a call and joining. And I just want to thank everyone involved, all the participants, all the panelists. Thank you all for being a part of such an incredible webinar.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everybody. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Will that stay up on the screen or will that be sent out to everyone? That last
We can
page.
set up, we'll send that up to everyone. All the registrants will receive
Okay.
that PDF. Thanks,
Great
Gene.
job.
Thank you, Fabiana. Take care.
Look
Thank you,
forward to doing
everybody.
it again
Bye-bye,
and working
guys.
with y'all again.
Okay.
Yes,
Bye.
definitely.
See you.
Um prazer,
Bye.
gente.
Appreciate
Tchau,
it
tchau.
very
Bye now.
much.